The sky above Eldon Mar's remote homestead had never looked so strange. Clouds twisted unnaturally, glowing faintly with a pale blue light, and the air smelled of something old, sharp, and alive. Eldon, a human xenobiologist who had long left the crowded galactic cities behind, felt a chill run down his spine. He had seen strange phenomena before, but nothing like this. Something was coming, something large, something that should not be here. A shadow moved across the fields beyond the hills. It was massive, larger than any aircraft Eldon had ever studied. Then, with a sound like thunder breaking a mountain, the creature landed. Dust swirled, the earth trembled, and Eldon's heart raced as he looked up. A dragon, enormous and majestic, had come down from the sky. Its scales glimmered like molten metal, but there was something different about this dragon. Its wings drooped, its head hung low, and in its claws it held a small, shaking hatchling. Eldon froze. The mother dragon's eyes met his, wide with desperation. This was not an attack. This was a plea. The galaxy had long feared dragons, and dragons had long avoided humans. War had scarred both sides, leaving memory as sharp as a knife. Yet here was Valerix, a mother with no options, bringing her dying child into human territory. The hatchling Irix trembled weakly, scales dull and wings barely moving. Eldon knew at once that the child was very sick. He had seen similar energy plague symptoms before, though never in dragons. He could see the signs in Irix's labored breathing, the flicker of life in his eyes, the slight hiss that escaped his throat with every shallow breath. Valerix lowered her head, resting her enormous snout near Eldon's feet. The gesture was clear. She trusted him to help. Fear warred with instinct. Every human story about dragons ended in blood. But Eldon did not move. He had lost a child once many years ago, and he could see in the dragon's eyes the same raw fear, the same hopeless grief that he had felt. Carefully, Eldon stepped forward, keeping his movements slow and calm. Valerix flinched at first but did not strike. He spoke softly in a voice almost lost under the wind, "I can help him. Let me try." Valerix's eyes flickered, a small shimmer of hope mixed with pain. She extended her claws slightly, offering the hatchling. Eldon approached, taking Irix with steady hands. The hatchling whined faintly but did not struggle. Its small body was cold and trembling. Eldon felt a pang of sorrow. He had never handled a dragon before, and yet something inside him knew what to do. He carried Irix to the shelter of his lab, where machines hummed quietly, tools and scanners ready for study. The mother dragon followed, dragging herself along the ground. Her wings, heavy with fatigue, scraped the soil. Eldon could see her injuries, burned scales along her chest, cuts on her wings, and faint scars that spoke of long battles fought. Yet she remained vigilant, never taking her eyes off her hatchling, trusting Eldon with the most precious life she had. Inside the lab, Eldon placed Irix on a reinforced table. He activated scanners designed for alien physiology. Data streamed across the holographic display, vital signs unstable, energy levels dangerously low, and cellular readings unlike anything in human biology. Eldon frowned. The energy plague that had taken so many dragons was here in this hatchling. He did not panic. He had knowledge, tools, and patience, things the galaxy's armies often lacked in crises. Valerix's massive head rested just outside the lab door. She did not move away, though her body was exhausted. She made soft, low sounds, almost whispers of distress. Eldon could not understand the words, but he felt their meaning. Save him. Please. He worked quickly, connecting gentle stimulators to Irix's body. The machines emitted soft pulses of light and warmth. Irix whimpered but did not resist. Slowly, a faint glow returned to his scales. Eldon's heart lifted slightly. He knew it was only the first step, only the smallest sign that the hatchling might survive. Outside, the wind picked up. The strange blue clouds deepened in color, as if the sky itself was watching. Eldon sensed movement. The neighboring human settlements were not far away, and sensors would have picked up the dragon's presence. He knew that authorities would soon arrive, likely armed, likely ready to destroy what they did not understand. Time was short. Valerix's eyes never left Eldon. The mother dragon seemed to understand something about humans that the galaxy had long forgotten, that some humans could act with courage, patience, and compassion. Eldon's hands moved steadily, scanning readings, adjusting controls, whispering reassurances to a hatchling who could not yet respond. Hours passed. Irix's breathing steadied, and color returned to his small, fragile body. Eldon allowed himself a quiet sigh of relief. Valerix nudged the lab door softly, a sound almost like gratitude. She had trusted a human, crossed a line she never should have, and her faith was rewarded, not fully but enough to give hope. Eldon looked out the window. The sky was darker now, the blue clouds like warning flames. He knew the galaxy would not forgive easily. Ships would come. Forces would demand the dragon. Yet in that moment he understood a truth older than any war. Life, no matter the species, could be saved by courage and care. Valerix lowered her head one last time before settling just outside, her body coiled and tense. Eldon met her gaze. Silent promises passed between them. He would save her child, and she would protect him if the galaxy tried to punish him for it. The wind howled again, carrying the scent of smoke, scales, and distant storms. Eldon's resolve hardened. He would not fail. Not now. Not when hope had come to him in the form of a trembling hatchling and a mother's desperate trust. And above all, the sky waited, holding its breath, as a human began a task the galaxy had long said was impossible. Healing a dragon where no one else could. Eldon worked through the night, his hands steady, his mind sharp. Irix, the tiny dragon hatchling, lay on the table, weak but alive. Every breath the child took was a victory. Eldon had seen suffering before, but this was different. Dragons were not just animals. They carried history, power, and life in a way humans could never fully understand. And now one depended entirely on him. Outside, Valerix rested cautiously. Her enormous wings folded around her, trembling with fatigue. She did not move closer, but her eyes followed every motion Eldon made. He understood her unspoken message, "Do not fail. He is all I have left." Eldon whispered softly, "I won't fail. Not tonight." He studied the scans again. The energy plague ravaging dragons reacted strangely to the human devices he had available. It was not a simple illness but a reaction to unstable energy fields caused by past galactic experiments near dragon territories. He frowned. If left untreated, Irix would not survive until morning. Eldon's knowledge of biology and ancient human technology gave him a small advantage, but it was a gamble. Hours passed, and outside the lab, faint sounds of ships echoed in the distance. Sensors in Eldon's lab picked up energy signatures from human patrols. Someone had already noticed the dragon's presence. In any other time, the arrival of armed humans would have been a threat. Eldon felt a pang of worry but did not move. He remembered his years in galactic research, the fear that humans had of dragons, and the fear dragons had of humans. Yet, running now would only doom the hatchling. Eldon adjusted the stabilizers attached to Irix. The hatchling's breathing was shallow but steady. Small sparks of light glimmered along his scales. Eldon smiled faintly. "You're stronger than they said," he whispered. Irix opened his eyes briefly, faintly glimmering, and Eldon felt a surge of hope. Even the smallest sign of life was precious. Valerix shifted her massive head closer to the lab door. She let out a soft, low rumble, almost a question. Eldon nodded. "I'm not leaving," he said. "We'll get through this together." The mother dragon seemed to understand, her gaze softening slightly. She had risked everything to bring her child here. And now, a human had chosen to stay, chosen to help instead of running away. The wind outside carried strange scents, smoke, ozone, and something sharp from distant energy fields. Eldon's lab scanners beeped. Patrol ships were approaching faster than expected. He did not panic. His priority was Irix. If the ships arrived he would face them, but for now the hatchling came first. Eldon prepared a small injector, designed to release controlled energy stabilizers into Irix's body. The hatchling flinched at the first touch but did not resist. Eldon worked methodically, watching the monitors. Slowly the child's body responded. His small wings twitched and a faint glow spread across his scales. Eldon exhaled, relief washing over him. For the first time in hours he allowed himself a small smile. Valerix rumbled softly, a sound Eldon took as approval. She lowered her head, letting him see the trust in her eyes. This trust was heavy, almost painful. Eldon understood the weight of responsibility. One wrong move, one miscalculation, and both dragon and human could die. He felt the enormity of the moment pressing against his chest. Yet he did not flinch. He had faced impossible tasks before, but none like this, saving a life the galaxy had already abandoned. Time moved slowly. The hatchling grew stronger, and Eldon adjusted the stabilizers and monitors carefully. Each small improvement gave him courage. He whispered to Irix, "We're almost there. Just hold on." The hatchling let out a faint hiss, almost like a weak response, and Eldon felt hope blossom. Outside, the patrol ships were closing in, their lights scanning the hills and forests. Eldon knew the galaxy's response would not be kind. Humans feared dragons. Many believed dragons were dangerous, uncontrollable, and capable of destruction. Yet here he was, standing alone, protecting one, and risking judgment from every human in orbit. He could hear the distant hum of their engines, but he did not move from the hatchling's side. Valorix stirred slightly, shifting her bulk to make herself more comfortable while keeping a careful watch. Her eyes never left Eldon or Irix. She seemed to sense that this human was different, calm, focused, and willing to defy fear. Perhaps for the first time in centuries, a dragon saw a human as a helper rather than a threat. Eldon continued to work. He adjusted the energy stabilizer's frequency, watched the hatchling's vital signs, and recorded data. Every moment mattered. Every breath could be Irix's last or the start of a new life. He worked quietly, speaking to the hatchling in low tones, soft words that could not be understood but perhaps could be felt. Minutes turned into hours, and the first light of dawn began to filter through the lab's windows. Irix's breathing was more even, his glow stronger, his small wings twitching with renewed energy. Eldon allowed himself to feel a cautious optimism. He looked outside at Valorix, and the mother dragon's massive head tilted slightly, almost as if acknowledging the human's effort. The patrol ships hovered at the edge of the forest, sensors scanning for dragons. Eldon knew they would not understand the situation. They would see a dragon on human territory and react with fear. But he did not panic. His focus remained on Irix, on saving life when others might destroy it. By midday, Irix moved slightly, opening his eyes fully. Eldon felt a surge of emotion. The hatchling was alive. He had survived the night. Valorix let out a long, low rumble, a sound filled with relief and gratitude. Eldon understood. This was more than just a survival moment. It was the beginning of trust between species, the start of something neither dragons nor humans had dared to hope for. Eldon stepped back slightly, still keeping his hands free. He looked at Valorix and saw the enormous weight of her choice, the risk she had taken in bringing her child here, trusting a human. And he felt the weight of his own choice, to stay, to help, to defy fear, and to protect life when all else seemed lost. Outside, the wind shifted again, carrying the scent of distant storms and faraway stars. Eldon glanced at the approaching patrol ships, then back at the hatchling. He knew the galaxy might not understand what had happened here, but for now, one small dragon lived because a human did not run. And that choice, simple yet brave, had changed everything. Eldon studied Irix carefully. The hatchling's breathing had stabilized, but the energy plague inside him still pulsed in strange, unpredictable patterns. It was a sickness the galaxy had given up on, a disease even dragons themselves feared. Eldon frowned, scanning the readings over and over. Every signal was strange, unlike anything he had ever seen. But he had knowledge, tools, and patience. That would have to be enough. Valorix stayed close, her massive body coiled near the lab. Her eyes never left Eldon, filled with a mixture of fear, hope, and exhaustion. She did not speak, yet Eldon felt her silent question, "Can you save him?" He nodded without looking up. "I will. I promise." He activated a small human-made resonance device. The machine was old, built when humans first explored alien biochemistry, but it still had power. Eldon adjusted the frequencies carefully, aiming to harmonize with Irix's energy. The hatchling's scales flickered with a faint glow. Eldon held his breath. One wrong adjustment could be fatal, but one right move might save him. Hours passed. Eldon worked tirelessly, adjusting, recalibrating, and monitoring. Irix whimpered, small hisses escaping him with each pulse of the machine. Eldon spoke softly, comforting him. "Hold on. You are stronger than they said. You can fight this." The hatchling's eyes flickered open, and Eldon felt a surge of hope. Small signs of life were growing stronger. Valorix shifted her massive head closer to the table. She let out a low rumble, watching Eldon's hands move. For the first time she seemed to relax slightly. She had trusted a human with her child, something dragons rarely did, and now she watched as he worked with precision and care. Outside, faint lights moved in the distance. The patrol ships had not left. They hovered over the hills, waiting, scanning. Eldon ignored them for now. He had no time to explain. The hatchling's life mattered more than the judgment of the galaxy. He adjusted the resonance device, connecting it carefully to Irix's energy points. Sparks of blue light ran along the hatchling's scales, pulsing gently. The hatchling flinched but did not resist. Eldon whispered, "I know it hurts. But this will save you." He worked with steady hands, each movement deliberate. The machines hummed, the air crackled faintly with energy, and outside, the wind carried the scent of storms and distant metal. Valorix rumbled softly as if encouraging him to continue. Time passed slowly. Minutes became hours. The hatchling's scales began to glow more steadily, the pulses of the plague weakening under the human's careful treatment. Eldon allowed himself a small smile. He was doing what no dragon, no healer, no government had done before. He was fighting a disease the galaxy had abandoned. A sudden movement outside made Eldon glance at the sensors. One patrol ship was moving closer, its lights scanning the land. He knew they would see Valorix, but he did not panic. He would face them if he had to. For now he focused on Irix. Every pulse of the machine, every adjustment was a fight for life. Valorix's eyes followed Eldon closely. She seemed to understand the human's determination. Perhaps for the first time she saw humans differently, not as enemies but as beings capable of courage, care, and patience. She had brought her hatchling to the right place. She had risked everything and now hope glimmered in the lab. Slowly Irix stirred. His wings twitched, his eyes opened wider and a faint, warm glow spread across his body. Eldon's heart lifted. The resonance device was working. The child dragon was responding. Small movements, small signs, but enough to know he would survive the night. Eldon whispered again, "See? You can do it. You're going to be okay." Valorix made a soft, rumbling sound. It was almost a sigh of relief. She had never heard such care from a human before. She lowered her massive head closer to the hatchling, watching him heal. Her body relaxed slightly, the tension of fear easing. Eldon continued working, adjusting the machine carefully, monitoring the hatchling's vitals. Outside, the patrol ships hesitated. They had expected a dangerous dragon, a threat to human settlements. But they did not understand the situation. A mother dragon, a human, and a tiny, sick hatchling were here together. For a moment, the galaxy's rules and fears seemed meaningless. Life mattered more than politics, more than laws, more than centuries of hatred. Hours later, Irix's breathing evened completely. The glow of the plague faded, replaced by a healthy shimmer across his scales. Eldon stepped back, exhausted but smiling. The hatchling opened his eyes fully and flapped his tiny wings weakly. Valorix lowered her head, letting out a long rumble that sounded almost like gratitude. She had trusted a human and he had succeeded. The distant patrol ships moved cautiously, scanning, unsure what to do. Eldon knew they would demand answers, explanations, maybe even the surrender of the dragon. But for now he did not care. Irix lived. The cure the galaxy had abandoned had been found and it was working. He had defied expectations, doing what no one else dared to try. Valorix nudged Irix gently, a small gesture of care. The hatchling responded, moving closer to his mother. Eldon watched, feeling the weight of the moment. This was more than survival. This was trust, courage, and hope. The galaxy had abandoned this child, yet here he was, healed by a human who did not run. Eldon whispered softly, almost to himself, "You are safe now. You will grow. You will live." He looked at Valorix and their eyes met. There was understanding, respect, and a silent bond that words could not capture. Outside the wind shifted. The sky was clear now, sunlight glinting on the dragon's scales, soft and warm. Eldon knew the galaxy would come, but for now he had changed the impossible. A human had saved a dragon where the galaxy had failed. A life had been restored and something new had begun. The hatchling moved closer to Eldon, tiny claws brushing against the table. Valorix rumbled softly again, lowering her head in a way that said, "Thank you." Eldon smiled, feeling a quiet sense of victory. He had done what no one else could. He had cured a dragon the galaxy had abandoned. And in that moment, everything seemed possible. Eldon stood by the lab table, watching Irix breathe steadily. The hatchling's glow had returned to a healthy shimmer, and his tiny wings twitched as he tested his strength. For the first time since the night began, Eldon allowed himself a small sigh of relief. He had done the impossible. He had saved a dragon that the galaxy had abandoned. Outside, Valorix remained watchful. Her massive wings were folded, but her eyes followed every movement Eldon made. She had trusted a human and he had proven himself. That trust created a fragile bond, one that neither species had experienced in centuries. Yet Eldon knew their peace was temporary. The human patrol ships that hovered over the hills would not leave easily. Fear, history, and suspicion would demand a response. The sensors in Eldon's lab beeped again. The patrol fleet was moving closer, scanning for life signs. Eldon glanced at Valorix and then at Irix. He knew the galaxy expected him to surrender the dragon, to hand over the hatchling for examination, or worse. But he could not. He would not. Not after seeing life return where the galaxy had given up. He activated the lab's communication array, connecting to open galactic channels. A secure broadcast went live, reaching patrol ships and distant colonies. Eldon spoke in his calm, steady voice, addressing all who would listen. "I have a dragon hatchling in my care," he said. "It is sick but it is alive. The energy plague that affected this child is not a curse, nor is it uncontrollable. It is a reaction to past human and galactic activity. I have treated it successfully, and the child is now healthy." Silence followed the broadcast. Patrol ships hesitated, unsure how to respond. For decades, humans had feared dragons. For centuries, dragons had feared humans. Now here was proof that life could be saved without violence. Eldon continued, explaining how the disease worked and how he had treated the hatchling. His words were simple, clear, and factual. Evidence spoke louder than fear. Valerix rumbled softly as if acknowledging Eldon's effort. She had never heard a human speak to the galaxy with such authority and calm. The mother dragon lowered her head, letting the humans see that she posed no threat. Her massive eyes held a quiet confidence in the human beside her. Together they were a silent message. Compassion could triumph where weapons failed. The patrol fleet shifted nervously. Some ships transmitted messages of caution to their superiors. Others prepared defensive measures. Eldon ignored them for now, focusing on Irix. The hatchling blinked up at him, small claws twitching. Eldon whispered, "You are safe. You are alive." He could see Valerix relax slightly, trusting the human to protect what she had risked everything to save. Hours passed. Eldon adjusted monitors and resonance devices to ensure Irix remained stable. He continued broadcasting updates showing evidence of the hatchling's recovery. Slowly, skepticism turned to curiosity. A few ships retreated slightly, unsure what to do. The galaxy had always assumed dragons were beyond reason, beyond care, beyond understanding. Now humans were learning the opposite. Life could be nurtured even across species. Valerix coiled her massive body closer to the lab, wings folding over herself. She watched the sky, then the humans in orbit, then Eldon. It was a tense waiting game, but the mother dragon had hope. Eldon's calm, steady presence had shifted the balance. Fear no longer ruled this encounter. Life, patience, and courage did. Suddenly, a patrol ship transmitted a question. "Who is authorized to treat a dragon?" Eldon smiled faintly. "I am. And I do not require authorization. I do what must be done to save life." He continued broadcasting to all listening. "The galaxy has abandoned dragons in their time of need. Humans can act differently. We can choose to save life, not destroy it. This hatchling is proof." For the first time, the ships hesitated without command. The fear that had driven centuries of conflict faltered. A human had acted where the galaxy had failed. A child dragon lived because one human did not run. Eldon felt the weight of the moment. Humanity had stood alone, but in doing so, they had changed the galaxy's view of dragons, of life, and of trust. Valerix lowered her massive head, touching Irix gently. The hatchling chirped softly, wings flapping weakly. Eldon reached out, letting the dragon's tiny claws rest in his hands. He felt a bond forming, a connection that defied fear, history, and expectation. The galaxy could arrive with weapons, with demands, with judgment, but for now life had the upper hand. Outside, sunlight filtered through the clouds, glinting off Valerix's scales. The mother dragon rumbled softly, a sound that seemed almost like gratitude. Eldon understood the meaning without words. The galaxy had abandoned dragons, but humanity had not. One human, acting with courage and care, had shifted the balance. The patrol ships finally began to pull back slightly. They hovered at a distance, scanning, unsure of what to do. Eldon did not move from Irix's side. He knew the galaxy might never fully understand, might still judge him, but it no longer mattered. The hatchling was alive. A mother dragon had been trusted. And a human had stood alone and made a difference. Hours turned into evening. Irix rested comfortably, glowing softly, wings stretched slightly. Valerix coiled near the lab, watching, alert but calm. Eldon stepped back, exhausted but resolute. The galaxy had expected fear, compliance, and surrender. Instead, they saw courage, compassion, and life saved against all odds. Eldon whispered softly, almost to himself, "This is only the beginning." He glanced at Valerix, who lowered her head in acknowledgement. Their bond, fragile but strong, was a symbol that life could endure where the galaxy had failed. Humanity had stood alone, yes, but it had also stood for hope. The wind shifted outside, carrying the smell of distant storms and open fields. Eldon looked at the sky, at the patrol ships, at the mother dragon and her child. He felt the enormity of the moment. One human had defied expectation, one hatchling had survived and one dragon had learned trust again. And in that silence the galaxy began to listen. The morning sun broke over the horizon, casting golden light across Eldon's homestead. Irex, now stronger, stretched his small wings and tested the air with soft, fluttering beats. The hatchling had grown since the night of the plague, each day showing new strength and life. Eldon watched closely, a sense of quiet pride filling him. The impossible had been done. A dragon had survived because a human chose to act. Valerix stood near the edge of the fields, her massive wings half unfurled, catching the sunlight. She looked at Eldon with something almost like reverence. He had saved her last child, defied the galaxy's expectations, and shown her a side of humanity dragons rarely saw: courage, patience, and care. She had trusted him and he had honored that trust. The distant hum of patrol ships lingered in the sky, but they no longer hovered threateningly. Eldon knew the galaxy would still have questions, perhaps demands, but for now he had created a fragile peace. One human had chosen life over fear and it had changed everything. Irex moved closer to Eldon, small claws tapping on the reinforced table. The hatchling chirped softly and Eldon smiled, reaching out to touch the tiny dragon's warm iridescent scales. "You've come so far," he whispered. Irex's eyes glimmered with awareness, following Eldon's hand, understanding somehow that the human had saved him. Valerix rumbled softly, a sound filled with relief and gratitude, her massive head lowering as if acknowledging Eldon's role in their survival. Eldon knew their safety was temporary. The galaxy might not forgive him for harboring a dragon, and patrols could return. But he also knew something important. This moment had changed perception. Humans had once been seen as weak, fearful, and reckless in dragon matters. Now, one human had shown that courage and compassion could achieve what fleets and armies could not. Over the next few days, Eldon worked with care to strengthen Irex further. He created a small habitat, warm and secure, using simple human technology. The hatchling grew stronger by the hour, wings stretching farther, scales shining brighter. Valerix remained close, teaching Irex to move, to flap, to feel the wind beneath his wings. She trusted Eldon completely now, knowing he had saved what mattered most to her. The human settlements in the distance had begun to hear stories. Rumors of a human who had healed a dragon spread quickly. Some doubted it, calling it legend, while others wondered at the possibilities. Eldon ignored the gossip, focusing on the life in front of him. Proof mattered more than words. Irex was living proof that the galaxy's assumptions could be wrong. One afternoon, Eldon climbed to a hill overlooking the fields. Valerix followed, wings creating a shadow that stretched across the land. Irex took his first short flight, flapping awkwardly but successfully landing near Eldon. The hatchling chirped, eyes bright with curiosity and trust. Eldon's heart lifted. Life had returned to this small dragon, and with it, hope had returned to a world long fearful of dragons. The patrol ships finally moved closer, scanning, but no attacks came. Eldon had broadcast evidence of Irex's recovery, showing the galaxy that fear was unnecessary. Some ships even transmitted messages of interest, asking how a human had achieved what dragonkind had believed impossible. Eldon responded simply: patience, care, and willingness to act where others had not. Valerix shifted beside him, ruffling her wings. Her massive eyes met Eldon's. There was understanding between them that needed no words. He had saved her hatchling and she had trusted him. That bond would carry far beyond the homestead, beyond the fields, beyond the stars themselves. In the following days, Eldon trained Irex carefully. The hatchling learned to move, to glide, to respond to Eldon's gestures. Valerix guided her child with gentle nudges and soft rumbles, and Eldon observed, learning how dragons communicated with one another. Slowly, a fragile alliance formed between human and dragon, built on trust and respect rather than fear. Word spread to distant colonies and even to dragon territories. The story of the human who healed a dragon against impossible odds inspired whispers of change. Could humans be trusted? Could dragons survive with human help? Questions that had seemed impossible began to feel like possibilities. Eldon did not seek recognition. He only wanted life to continue, to see Irex thrive, and to honor the trust Valerix had placed in him. Months passed. Irex grew larger, stronger, and more confident. He flapped his wings and soared short distances over the fields, Valerix flying above him, protective but encouraging. Eldon watched, feeling the satisfaction of a goal achieved that no one else had dared attempt. The galaxy had expected failure, but life had triumphed instead. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Eldon stood beside the mother dragon and her fully grown hatchling. The wind carried the scent of earth, grass and scales. Valerix rumbled softly, nudging Irix toward Eldon in a gesture of gratitude. The hatchling chirped, circling once around them before landing gracefully. Eldon felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had defied fate, saved life, and shown the galaxy that compassion could be stronger than fear. The sky darkened, stars beginning to shimmer above. Valerix lifted her wings, casting a protective shadow over Eldon. Irix hovered briefly, testing his strength, then returned to his mother's side. Eldon knew their journey was far from over. The galaxy still had challenges, still had fears, still had old rules to confront. But for now, dragons and humans had a bond that no one could break, a proof that the impossible could be achieved. Eldon whispered softly, looking up at the stars, "We did it. We changed what was possible." Valerix's low rumble echoed softly, and Irix chirped in agreement. Life had been preserved. Trust had been earned. And humanity had shown its courage in the face of doubt. The wind shifted gently, carrying the scent of distant forests and open skies. Eldon smiled, knowing that the future held promise, not fear. Dragons and humans, once enemies, now shared hope and life. A single choice, a single act of care had defied fate. And above the homestead, a dragon shadow passed across the fields, a reminder that life, trust and courage could change the universe itself.